Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world, the city of neon lights, and in 1981 was home of one of the most infamous circuits F1 has ever raced on. But will a race under the neon lights of Vegas ever return to the calendar?
Welcome to the blue skies and the blazing sunshine of Las Vegas for the championship-deciding last Grand Prix of 1981.
For two strange seasons in 1981 and 82, the World Championship was decided by the Caesars Palace Grand Prix. The owners of the casino had long been attracted to the idea of hosting an F1 race, in hopes of attracting wealthy high rollers that would attend the race and spend their share of wealth at the casinos. They believed that the glamour of the Monaco Grand Prix could be replicated in the Nevada desert, and when Watkins Glen went off the schedule for the 1980 US Grand Prix, Bernie Ecclestone and others worked to make sure the Vegas race became a reality. The track was laid out in the parking lot of the Caesars Palace Resort and Casino. The makeshift circuit was over 2 miles long, squeezed between concrete barriers and high wire catchment fences. The flat ground and meter-high barriers gave drivers very little reference points to work with. And if that wasn't enough, its counterclockwise direction put a tremendous strain on the drivers' necks. Combined with the scorching Nevada heat, the race was anything but enjoyable, and the barren backdrop of dust, sand, and highways failed to convey the glamour of Vegas. Nelson Piquet clinched his first world champion by finishing 5th, but it took him 15 minutes to recover from heat exhaustion after barely making it to the finish. Yet despite the obvious flaws, the track remained on the calendar for the following season. The 1982 race, held in the same intense heat, was won by Michele Alboreto, which marked the end of Formula One racing in Vegas. The races had drawn only tiny crowds and didn't bring the casino much profit. But apart from the lackluster racing, the drivers weren't totally disappointed. It was great to be in Vegas, America's 1978 F1 World Champion Mario Andretti said. Because of what Vegas has to offer, as far as extravagance outside the race, and because of all the amenities of the city. Many, including Andretti, indulged in these amenities during the weekend. Bernie Ecclestone himself was said to have handed over a large paper bag full of $100 bills to settle his gambling debt. But could a race in Vegas ever work? Well, if of course a Grand Prix would ever be staged in Vegas again, it would have to be on the iconic Vegas Strip. After all, racing under the lights is always special, and that racing atmosphere, coupled with the Vegas nightlife, is sure to be something worth watching. But preparing for this would entail weeks or even months of disruption to the city. According to the official F1 website, construction of the Circuit de Monaco takes 6 weeks. Would the casinos and other businesses be up to the challenge? The extensive disruptions and logistical issues are some of the main reasons a long-discussed London Grand Prix has never gone forward. And from an economic perspective, it doesn't seem too promising either. In addition to the cost of the circuit itself, there would also be a race hosting fee, and that isn't cheap. For reference, the deal signed for the Russian Grand Prix was approximately $200 million over 7 years. Although, like most popular sporting events, governments can justify these expenses by pointing towards the amount of revenue and exposure an F1 race brings to the host city. For example, entrepreneur Chris Pook, who was working to bring F1 back to Long Beach, said the 2013 US Grand Prix, which marked the Circuit of the Americas' second race in Austin, generated a net gain of $4.9 million in tax revenue, and $17.2 million for the state of Texas. But does Vegas really need the exposure of an F1 race to drum up tourism and create revenue? After all, more than 42 million people visited the city in 2019. With those numbers, it is difficult to see how anyone could justify interrupting the regular business on the strip for a month or two just to bring an additional 50,000 to 100,000 fans. Also, most people are familiar, or at least heard of Vegas already. There might not be much additional exposure a race could bring that the city has not already received from countless movies filmed in Vegas. But with proper preparation and an actual track that isn't a parking lot, I still think that a Grand Prix in Vegas would be fun to watch. And with F1 finally picking up in the US, it could be possible. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until next time on Race Day Recap.